Pacers win their season opener first time in a few years, and they do it in convincing fashion. 23-point win over the Wizards. And as we do every year on Locked On Pacers, we're overreacting to night one. Adam Friedman is back, and we'll break it all down today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the first place Indiana Pacers. Got to squeeze it in while I can. Today, we're, of course, talking about the Pacers opening night victory. My name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today, of course, 143-120, the final score, is what we're talking about. Pacers start slow and have a magnificent final three quarters, particularly in the offensive end. They hit a bunch of threes. Their offense was humming, and we got to overreact to it all, as we do every year here on Locked On Pacers after the first game. Way too strong of reactions to the Pacers' first game. We'll bring in some awards. We'll talk about their offensive rating ranking, talk about their coaching, all sorts of stuff as we do. And, of course, the best person to do it with, the person who I've done this show with for 7 straight years now, I believe, Adam Friedman, the former co-host of the show and a writer at Indy Cornrows. Let's overreact to the Pacers' dominant win over the Wizards on opening night. A yearly tradition like none other, opening night overreactions. And for the first time since Rick Carlisle's second stint, we're doing it after a win. Pacers crushed the Wizards 143-120, and it's time to overreact. And it's time for the man whose idea it was to start doing this show however many years ago, the overreaction king, Mr. Adam Friedman, who painfully dragged overreactions out of me for years. Adam, how you doing?
Pretty good. I think we started at 2017. 2017.
Because we got to react to Depot going crazy.
We reacted to a 140 to something win against the
Nets.
The Nets. They played incredibly fast paced, and then they never did that the rest of the season because they realized they couldn't play any defense if they did that. But it was a fun first game.
It was a fun first game. Pacers offense looked incredible. We'll talk about that. 2 double-doubles from their point guards. Basically, everybody who played did something well, which is encouraging for this team going forward. And their new additions looked good. It was hilarious listening back to last year's Overreactions podcast. If you'll recall last year, to set some context, Pacers expected to be bad. Miles Turner and Buddy Hield and rampant trade rumors. Miles Turner turns his ankle on a ball boy right before the game, which everybody sent me tank gifts all day. Goga Batadze played well, and we were like talking about him getting picked. Chris Duarte got hit in the face. Some of our overreactions included trade Buddy Hield as fast as possible. He took too many shots. Mathurin is going to be a solid player and needs to start. Haliburton has found the right level of aggression. We got some things right. We got some things miserably wrong. And we'll do so again today because, Adam, I have to overreact to the Pacers offense. They could have the best offense in the league. They were crazy on offense today.
Can I just say we might still be right about Buddy Hield?
No, they ended up being good, and he was important to that.
Sure, but he still might take too many shots and need to be traded at some point, depending on how
for that reason, but perhaps, yes.
Yeah, but he shot 5 of 9, made 4 threes. You know, he was pretty good tonight.
Your current offensive rating leader in the NBA, the Indiana Pacers. Not every game is over, so I can't say for sure that will be the case. 128.8. That is obviously unsustainable, but the things. So the caveats abound. They went 20 for 43 from deep. Bruce Brown couldn't miss. Buddy Hield shot very well from deep. Jalen Smith made both of his. Jordan Nwora hit his. They had an unusually good shooting night, but the reason in the overreactions take would be that their offense could be among the best, if not the best in the league, would be low turnovers, only 12, 38 assists on 56 makes, which both of those numbers are insane, right? They didn't even get to the foul line that much, and they scored 43 points. And so better fouling could be better. They didn't have that many steals or offensive rebounds. They didn't even play the possession game that well. They just did their stuff in transition and were awesome in the half court, slicing and dicing. They had a ton of Ben Mathurin had 5 assists. He looked great as a passer. Buddy Hield had 5 assists. He looked great as a passer at times. They just were clinical on that end. Caveat being they played the Wizards, of course, but they looked great on offense and they happened to make a lot of shots.
Yeah, but the spacing was probably some of the best spacing they've had on the floor in a long time. I mean, this is the first time they don't have a clogging center. I guess they didn't have one last year, but like they finally don't have anybody clogging up the lanes, even on the roster. It seems like, right?
Well, early in the season last year, Jalen Smith was on the front court. Remember, so they kind of did.
Well, and they saw Goga, right? So he is a kind of a clogging center. I just mean right now it seems like they don't have any. I guess Jalen Smith sort of off the bench is the one clogging guy, but pretty much they can play an unclogged lineup where they can basically spread them out, go down the center, and move the ball around. You notice that there's a lot of like hockey assists too. And I don't know, I don't know if they keep track of the NBA, but you saw a lot of like balls move around, looking for the quick pass, and just kind of like basically a non-dribble passes constantly. It seemed like the entire night.
Yeah, this term gets overused, but like the ball didn't stick or stop with anybody, right? And even the usual suspects who sometimes it would because they're good at face-up scoring. Your Mathurins, he's the leader of that. Like Nembhard stops it sometimes, although he was playing the one so much that he not even a chance to do
Mathurin
that.
even like was looking for the extra pass a couple of times. I mean, he actually turned over the ball a couple of times trying to make the extra pass, but he was like making it focused to like not just kind of get the ball top of the key and try to drive himself, but actually push it around to in the back end and turn it down low or somewhere on the other side of the court.
Yeah, Mathurin's pass to Turner in the first quarter, that was an injury pass, was ugly. Maybe it was the second quarter, but he had a really great passing game. Like if he averages 5 assists, 2 turnovers every game this season, the Pacers will take that easily because that was one of his biggest warts is he would drive and then tunnel vision immediately. There's no pass for him to make. He couldn't get out of it. Like he had some great passing scheme. Another one of those ones where he runs into an X-out situation with a defender and he looks off the defender and then throws it to the corner. He actually got the assist this time because the shot went in. He had some nice wins off drives. And then Buddy Hield ran a pick and roll and like had a nice pass between 2 defenders. Like if this is the ball movement the Pacers can have, even if they don't shoot almost 50% on 43 attempts from 3, they're going to put up some points. And I think that is, look, we knew that to some extent about the Pacers. They're going to be a good offensive team, but that level was very high, albeit, again, playing the Wizards.
Yeah, it felt like there are 3 young guys. So I'm saying Haliburton, Nembhard, and Mathurin all made improvements from last year. I mean, I guess Haliburton, you make a case that he just as good as he was last year. He was very good last year too. But it just seems like they all have looked like they're either have been told to focus on something, got better at it, or just like made another improvement in their game, which is sort of what you want as a young team is to see that. And then the fact they added some nice talent, sort of veteran talent with Toppin and Brown around them, sort of that fits better than the lineup was last year because I think they kind of didn't know what they had last year because they were throwing a lot of rookies in and there was kind of were they going to trade Turner? Were they going to tank? Like, there was a lot of other things going on. And so this year they were able to construct a roster that actually fit their sort of, I would call 3 young core guys. And it just was really fun to watch because they looked incredible, frankly, for at least the last 3 quarters.
I will relay Obi Toppin the message that you call him a veteran. I will be very curious.
I mean, you know what I mean. Like I mean, literally we're talking about between Nembhard, Haliburton, and Mathurin, what, 7 years of NBA or 6 years of NBA experience? 6,
no,
right?
5.
5. 3 plus 2, right? 5 years sometimes, right? I mean, I think calling Haliburton young, I guess maybe is the one where you could get me on that, but like especially Nembhard, I thought Nembhard and Mathurin, they look like you expect there to be some sophomore slump eventually because that's just what happens, but they both look like they were kind of improving on things they were bad at last year, whether it was just, passing the ball a little bit more, finishing around the rim a little better for Mathurin, kind of trying to get not be afraid of the contact as much. Like he looked like he has been improving his game over the summer a lot.
Mathurin plus Haliburton plus Nembhard plus Jackson plus Nesmith is only 1 more year of service than Miles Turner's whole career. Like that's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. All right.
Yeah, I mean, that's because he has quickly become the veteran basically on the roster after how many years of him being the youngest guy on the roster, right? But there was many years where you're like, this is the young, he'll get figured out. Now all of a sudden, because he's the only one stuck around and probably the only player stuck around the last 8 years or so, he's now become like the veteran guy.
Adam Friedman, overreaction number 1.
Okay, so I wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wrote down 6.
Oh God.
Which one do you want first? Do you want a coaching one, an award one, a potential trade one? What do you sort of just pick something and I'll
they won by 23. Give me a positive award one. We'll go bad cop in the second segment.
Okay. And this is a tough one because I had to write out the names, but I wrote Tyrese Haliburton will make an all-NBA team. Now this is tough because of how many good guards there are, right? So I wrote down I think
no positions anymore.
Okay.
No positions anymore. He's just got to be top 15 in the league.
But is there still going to be sort of 6? I know they're still going to be like 6 guard-ish players. Like, how are they going to? I guess how are they going to determine?
They'll probably be more than that because guards put up stats, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I sort of did it based on the guard one, just because that was where I was thinking about it. Like, there are probably 6 or
but it's
7
also more
guards
impressive if he's among
in
the
front
top
of them,
6
right?
guards.
Like, there's Steph, Jamal Murray, Booker, Luka, Dame, Shea, and Jaylen Brown, and he's probably, and maybe De'Aaron Fox, the other one to throw in. Like, I think he was
And
13
Mitchell.
last. And Mitchell, but right, to say 2 of those will probably bound to get hurt, right, for enough games. I mean, that's just what happens, right? So that then leaves, I think, 7 left. So then he'd probably have to be better than Jaylen Brown.
I think he was close to Jaylen Brown's level last year. He was probably about Jaylen Brown's level last year. I just slammed my desk. That's a tough group to crack.
I guess the question is, if he wins the assist title and actually scores 20 plus points a game, does that all of a sudden have, you have to put him there no matter what, right? It seems like if he's going to be, I mean, he had 20 and 11 tonight. He was averaging somewhere around that last year, maybe a little below 20, I think, some during his peak moments. But
he averaged 20 and 10.4 last year. He also only played 27 minutes today, right? Like, and it wasn't hard. Like, did he look like he was like really struggling to find his shots or his passes at all?
No, the spacing has been great for him. He literally like he goes in the lane and his head stays completely straight to the hoop, and he just looks for, and he makes either one pass to either side. You can't tell which way he's going to go, or he'll just score like an easy little like flutter or layup.
I don't know if this is new per se for him, but he did something. I think they were going away from me, so it had to be at least the third quarter. We did a pick and roll with Miles, and he's driving to the layup. And this was with a shot where he would do that little weird Hallie hook shot last year that was never went in. And he faked the pass to Turner as the roll man. And the defender's like, oh, crap, and just runs to Miles Turner. And he just had a wide open layup. And I was like, man, if he could do that once a game, like, that's just an easy shot in his bag because he's such a good court visionary and will help him so much. Yeah, I think he can get to that level, definitely. And the Pacers we'll be curious if he does or not, because he makes quite a bit more money if he makes all NBA.
Yeah, what are we talking? He goes from, what are we talking, 30 more million?
It depends on the cap, but like 206 to 260, quite a bit.
$54 million. Yeah, I mean, I think that the problem is it is a deep league, right? And that's the biggest issue. But if he can play 70 something games and put up in the mid 20s in points per games and the low, let's say 12 assists per game, and that's going to get him pretty close to it. Especially if he, like I said, wins the assist title, that sort of puts him in like this kind of category where people think they need, and their offense is a top 5 offense too. That will also help him. Yeah,
and he, his per 36 is like 25 and 13 or 14 right now. Like,
I will say, how refreshing was it to have? I mean, I know we've had Carlo now for 2 years, but it was the second year. Have a coach who realizes when you're up by big, you don't need to put your starters back in with 7 minutes left. Maybe I'm just McMillan, and
they went to the reserves really early. They got like 7 minutes of McConnell in there at the end.
I was watching it, and they went up, but like probably 20 something, about 8 minutes. I'm like, right, they're gonna go to the bench, the back 5 eventually, right? And they did, and I was surprised by it. It's nice to have a coach who realizes we're not going to just burn our players into the regular season ground for fun.
The other thing is, they're such a deep team that like their reserve 5 is kind of like a good group. Right?
Yeah, I mean, McConnell not playing is a pretty good sign. I mean, good sign that they have that many good guards in front of him, because he's an adequate NBA player still.
It's easier to be confident you're going to hold your lead when you have TJ McConnell and Jordan Nwora in the game who can score a lot.
Yeah, and they're like would probably be on the back roster of any of the at least bad teams to be playing minutes. At least like a team like the Wizards, for example.
Hey everybody, have to take a quick break to talk to you about Ibotta. How does free Thanksgiving sound? This year, Ibotta is here to help give you cash back and help make sure your Thanksgiving table is complete, because who wants turkey without the gravy? Starting November 1st, for the 4th year in a row, Ibotta is giving 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, produce, personal care, pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. Ibotta, you get real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account or to PayPal or to gift cards. You can earn that cash back from hundreds of retailers like Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Download the Ibotta app right now. Use the promo code LOCKED, LOCKED. You'll get that 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving dinner starting on November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store. Download the free Ibotta app and use that code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store with the code LOCKED. And I have to talk to you all about the lovely people over at PrizePicks who make daily fantasy sports fun and easy. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's not you against other people. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros, you pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, watch the winnings roll in. Testing your skills on PrizePicks is super fun and exciting, especially this football season, which is rolling. If you have the skills, you can send $10 into $250 with just a few taps. It's really simple to play. You can make your picks in 60 seconds or less. For example, Aaron Rodgers, when he was playing, 3 or more passing touchdowns in a game. Travis Kelce, more or less than 50 yards. That is how PrizePicks works. It's a blast. It's so much fun, and you have to try it yourself. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA. You'll get a first-time deposit match up to $100. That's PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use that code LockedOnNBA for a first-time deposit match up to $100. You've got to try it at PrizePicks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. I'd like to thank everybody for making Locked On Pacers their first listen today and every single day. 24 teams played last night. Whew. So get your fix of any other team in the league for your second listen that you're curious about who has played. I think only 2 teams have not played yet, but I can't remember who they are. But lots of info out there in the Locked On Network for you to dive into. If you're curious about Wembanyama's debut, for example, the Hornets upsetting the Hawks, many important games around the league already going on. In Pacerland, we're overreacting. Adam, I don't know what the right term to overreact to this is, but I'm very concerned about their defense still. They scored so much that it didn't matter, but especially in the first quarter, and remember, they were a bad first quarter team last year. That was a big storyline for some of the season. They gave up 39, and Washington's going to be a team that just like has these stretches where they're unstoppable just because of the guys they have. They gave up 39 and like could not stop them. And they gave up less than 30 every quarter of the rest of the game. So maybe I'm overthinking one specific quarter, but they got torn up in that quarter and they gave up 120 for the game still. And the number that they'll point to and be concerned with is 23 fouls. So they are still going to struggle on defense. And I don't know what the perfect overreaction term is, but they've got to be better there still.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have the defensive perimeter talent to be probably even like an adequate, I mean, maybe an adequate, but to be a good defensive team. I mean, they have basically it's kind of like Turner holding it up with duct tape. He's
well, I have one challenge to that.
Okay.
They had one lineup that defended awesome, and it did not have Turner in the game because it was their 3 best perimeter defenders altogether. 6 minutes and 42 seconds of this group. It was Andrew Nembhard, Buddy Hield, Bruce Brown, Aaron Nesmith, Jalen Smith. And so when you get Nembhard, Nesmith, and Brown in there, you can defend well enough. That group only gave up, got to actually get this right, 18 points in almost 7 minutes. So that would be, I can't.
Do you know what stretch it was in? Like, was it the?
No, I don't.
Against the Wizards
second quarter. It has to be second quarter, just given who.
So probably the Wizards bench unit as well, right? So that
yes,
might help some of the stats a little bit because the Wizards are
that's true.
Not an incredibly deep team. If I had to say, if I just had to guess,
I can't argue with that.
Yeah,
but you are right. You are right to continue.
Well, because the lineup they're gonna have to play to score enough points to win games. I guess maybe it's the best way to put that. Does not have the perimeter defense to be probably anything above average. And Turner will look bad because everyone else around him is bad, right? He's not actually playing bad, but he gets kind of stuck in these positions where he has to be I don't know if he looks bad, but gets kind of screwed, basically. For lack of a better term.
I thought in the first quarter he looked not lost, but just like not Miles Turner defensively. And then the rest of the game, he looked good defensively.
Everything looked lost in the first 6 minutes. I mean, it was like it was like they hadn't woken up. I don't know. I'll give him a little bit of a break.
Yeah, Turner's first quarter stunk, and then he finished, 11 and 8, 3 blocks, like a very Miles Turner stat line, plus 14.
Yes, because he had a little too many fouls. Like which is always been an issue.
And Jalen Smith, they had to, in a twist of fate, foul trouble led them to Isaiah Jackson instead of away from Isaiah Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the stat to point to exactly what you're saying, and the one that I thought was nuts in the first quarter, 68 points in the paint for the Wizards. That's more than the Pacers had, and the Pacers had 23 more total points, right? And in the first quarter, I'll try to find my own tweet where I have the specific number, but not like of the first 30 points for the Wizards, like 22 are in the paint or something. I'm going to try to find it while I'm talking, which is generally a terrible way to podcast and entertain people. But yeah, okay, here it was. So it was, they had 20 of their first 28 points for the Wizards, 22 were in the paint, right? So like that's just giving up drives and breakdowns on the perimeter. And if you're giving up that much to the Wizards, it's going to be worse against some more talented teams.
Some of that probably you can chop up to like bringing in some new players and not understanding the exact like spots to be in, basically, or not understanding like who's backing up who where, and sort of letting guys get beat, and then basically making it a one-on-one game for Turner. Maybe he's already been pulled from the basket by someone else. Like some of that is like, a lot of it is some of that like spacing and defensive sort of maneuverability does need some time to mesh, especially when you bring in Bruce Brown and like other players, that don't really know what's going on. And Mathurin into the starting lineup for the first time. Like,
yeah,
that kind of stuff does sort of change the dynamic.
And as a Rick Carlisle, Tyrese Haliburton team does, they're good at adjustments, right? Which is part of my running theory that has not been founded by anyone I've ever talked to, but it's part of my running theory why they're not as good as first quarters as the rest of games, because Haliburton and Carlisle just figure something out that works better. And they looked a lot better the rest of the game, including defensively. Like they cleaned up their weak side rotations a lot. I think the first possession that it was noticeable when Aaron Nesmith had this nasty block coming over from the weak side. And so it got better. Like, again, they gave up sub 30 for the last 3 quarters, but still some concerns to me, like even in a dominant win in which they were forcing the team to take the ball out of the basket a lot. They barely are in the top half of the NBA in defensive rating right now. So we'll see. You are up.
All right, I'll counter your defensive rating with, I think this will be Carlisle's best offensive rating as a coach. So his best rating was about 116 in 2019-20 with the Mavs. I believe he had a year, and the year where it was Rondo, JJ Barea, I think, and Luka for like half the year. They had this incredible offensive rating, and it fell off eventually, where that was probably maybe his best offensive team actually for like a 40-game stretch. I think the Pacers have a chance to, I guess, beat the 116 rating. They were first that year too in the league in 2019-20. I don't know if Pacers will be first with a 117 offensive rating, just because the league is every year the offensives just keep kind of rising up. But I think this could be Carlisle's best offensive rating season as a coach.
116 would put him top 5 from last year's numbers, at least. Last year he was at 130. The Pacers and Carlisle.
Yeah,
113.8.
Yeah, they were good last year. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to think they could be, I guess.
I agree. I just said it's not crazy that they'd have the best offense in the NBA. I mean, that's obviously an overreaction. I don't actually think they're going to have the best offense in the NBA.
Well, that's the point. They are called overreactions for a reason.
It's so hard because I have to blend like coverage brain with like go nuts. They just won by 23 brain.
Yeah, well, the thing, I feel like every first game they play really fast, and then eventually the game just slows down. The season goes on because nobody has this fresh of legs, frankly.
And there's scouting reports.
Yeah, and with that too, and stuff. But the way they played offense, like I said, the way they just moved the ball around and not letting it stick, and it wasn't necessarily like a constant. I mean, there was a decent amount of pushing the pace, but it felt like a lot of their half-court offense too was pretty effective. When it got set, they were able to basically cut in, kick out, and move the ball around, which is something that should translate even as the game sort of slows down as the season goes on.
Yeah, I don't know what stat I'll point to more. 143 with 38 assists and only 12 turnovers, or 143 with only 12 free throw attempts. Both of them are just like, golly, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's the most points they've scored. To your point, I looked this up. I should have said this earlier. That's the most points they've scored or tied on the nose for the most points they've scored since they hired Carlisle in 2021 in a game. So point made, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't do this, I guess every team, it is encouraging to see that they can beat up on the bad teams, right? Hopefully that's something they can be better at this year. And they were pretty good, I think, for the first half of last year till Haliburton's injury. But nice to see if they could, like, because that used to be the Pacer kind of way, right? It was like you win 48 games by winning 30 against all the worst teams, right? And that was like sort of the formula to having at least a top 6 team in the East.
I mean, the low-hanging fruit to discuss that switch is, remember their first 2 games last year? They lost at home to the Wizards and lost at home to the Spurs, right? Like,
yeah, to be honest, they should have lost more games last year. It would have helped them. They could have got a better pick, but I understand what you mean.
They were a good team until a freak injury. Well, until an injury happened.
Yeah, I think but then they were like pretty close where they had been in Portland's spot. They would have gotten a top 3 pick.
You win some, you lose some.
I know. It's the way life goes.
Before we talk about more overreactions, I have to talk to you guys about FanDuel. Snap into the NFL action this season. There's a game tonight, and on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, it's the best place to do it because right now, new customers on FanDuel get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. All you got to do is place a $5 bet. You can get $200 in bonus bets, and you can win or lose that $5 bet, and you'll still get those bonus bets. You've been thinking about joining FanDuel. There's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The NFL's rolling. The MLB is in the World Series. NBA is also rolling. The app is super easy to use. They have a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, and over-unders, and so much more. Whatever your favorite is, they've got it. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to kick off the NFL season at FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Give me another one. You have more than me, so you're going twice in a row.
Okay. Let's see. I think TJ McConnell will be traded before the end of the year.
Oh.
Right, the deadline, the trades can open up December 15th, right?
Yeah, he can be traded anytime, but yes, like most of the league can.
Most of the league, right? December 15th is sort of the sort of start of the trade.
Yeah, I think that is well founded. I mean, we already have heard about the Suns' interest all summer, and Carlisle told us. We started the presser post game with Rick Carlisle. He always has an opening statement after regular season games. Before he even says, like, our offense was great, I liked our defensive adjustments, blah, 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 he said, I had one of the hardest conversations I've ever had as a coach yesterday, telling TJ McConnell he's not going to play, right? And he explained it well. First of all, it's tough given the Pacers' personnel, and they added Bruce Brown. Like, there's just more backcourt depth. But two, at what point does adding a 10th man to the rotation, like, is it not worth it? Because the guys that aren't playing his minutes instead of him should be playing more, right? So
Nembhard looks like is ready to be the backup point guard.
Oh, he was awesome. Yeah.
So, awesome. I mean, this game made it look like that at least. I mean, we'll see if he can hold it, but he's ready. I mean, that's and it's a much cheaper option. And
when I predicted the Pacers rotation before the season, I did not have McConnell in it. He played well in the preseason, so I thought he might have earned minutes, but he didn't play, and it was a hard conversation for Carlisle. But that combined with the fact that his contract is half guaranteed next year, which could be appealing to teams in this new CBA environment, makes me wonder if a really expensive team could be interested in him, or if a team that needs a backup point guard could be interested in him, because the Pacers certainly don't have the role for him that they maybe could have in past seasons. So, yeah, I think that is a good reaction.
You're missing one other where it's a package deal, right? Him and Buddy Hield gets you to what, $27-28 million, and does that get you a player that you otherwise couldn't get?
Him, Tyson, Buddy gets you like almost anybody with salary matching now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously though, now the league, I'm not talking like elite. You're not going to get like an elite level player, but maybe you can, in a 3-teamer, send these two guys to a team once they're expiring deals and get another good player and some picks shifted around that way. That's the other thing that could happen. But because that would basically be their 9th man, right? Because Buddy's their 9th man right now. I mean, he's not their 9th man. He's higher than that in the roster, but he is in the 9-man rotation. So if you get rid of him, McConnell, you can bring in another 9th guy. Yeah,
McConnell, 6 minutes of garbage time. Yeah. Didn't miss a shot, 2 assists, 1 steal.
He might just be honestly too.
He's like, good. He's still good.
Yeah, like the team might just feel bad, honestly, right? Like it's like, why do we want to waste? Like he's gonna be, if he's gonna be professional about it, like he said, why would do him the respect by giving him a chance to go play somewhere and at least either get his contract picked up next year or earn another contract.
Well, and that's the flip side of what I said. Like if you're a team, obviously you can make savings with his contract, but like if he's not playing, he's going to want to play. He wants to earn more money, right? So
yeah, I mean, right? He signed a 3-year. It was 3 years, 27, right?
Or 4 for right? 4 for that? 4 for 35.
Oh God, now you have me doubting myself. I'm trying to remember if it was 3 or 4. I remember it was
a 4-year deal, but I don't remember the money exactly, just because of that partial guarantee.
Yeah. Okay. I think it was 3 for. Maybe it was 4. Maybe it was 4 for 30. I think it's 4. Maybe it's 4. Okay. Anyways. But he's certainly not done, right? So he's going to want him.
It is 4 because he got re-signed the same summer they hired Carlisle, so it's 4.
Okay, no, that'd be 3, then, wouldn't that?
No, because he's 2 years left, with next year being the half guarantee. Remember?
No, but this is the 2nd year, and then next year
it's 3rd year of Carlisle being the head coach.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, you're right.
I remember.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, like I said, he's still got some legs left, and I'm sure he wants to try to earn some more money. I mean, that was I think when he signed the deal, even it was a big deal because already he was a 2nd-round pick, so he hadn't had a big contract yet.
No, he was not a 2nd-round pick.
No, what was undrafted? Undrafted by Philly, right? So he had not made big money. I don't think anybody thought he was going to really make it in the league, and he did. So like just him getting a $20+ million contract initially was a big deal, and so I'm sure he'll want to add to it.
Definitely agree. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It's certainly already a story, which it should be, because he's the best player who didn't play. And I would be trying to find ways to get Jarris Walker in there. I get why they can't, but McConnell too is also an awkward part of this. Man, it's hard to come up with. I'm not good at overreacting.
That's why I wrote mine down before.
Well, I thought about them the whole drive here while also listening to ours from last year, just so I could laugh at how funny
Overreactions. I don't care if I'm wrong. We're supposed to be kind of wrong in some ways.
True. Okay. I'll overreact. Benedict Mathurin is going to triple his assists per game average this year.
All right, I'm going to throw one in there with you too. He has a chance to finish top 3 in the Most Improved Player award.
Oh, I like it. I like
it. They go together. So they
okay. You're right on principle, but there's so many people who do the like second-year player thing, and I'm kind of one of them, that he probably will get dinged for that, right?
I guess. I mean, he probably have to average 20 points a game, give or take, a little more to actually be in the conversation. I get like, yeah, I understand. It just seemed like usually the most improved player is someone that makes that leap. Now, usually it's the leap from sort of non-all-star to all-star, which I don't think he's going to probably be able to do. But he looked really good. I mean, he just seemed like he's getting better.
He didn't shoot well and had 18 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Like, that's a great game.
I think when we first saw him last year, you could see the raw talent, right? A guy who didn't seem to be afraid to go up against players, didn't seem to embrace contact, seemed to like kind of like just have a good feel for shooting and like had a good feel for scoring, I guess, right? Yeah. The question was, could he sort of keep improving on it and honestly not be as like centered on himself all the time with the ball, right? Could he figure out how to incorporate other players around him? And it looked like he has made improvements in that arena, right? It looks like he is looking for passes, not understanding that he can draw the attention, but then move the ball out away from him, but also still having some of that like score first instinct that can be really important for a player to sort of make that leap to 20 plus points a game.
One of your overreactions last year was about him winning Rookie of the Year. And
he was the favorite for about 40 games, right? And then
he got pretty he was the Rookie of the Month for the first month of the season. And
then why am I blanking on the guy in Orlando's name?
Paolo Banchero.
Yeah,
well, I shot you down on last year's show, which cracked me up listening back because Paolo on opening night last year had 27 points. So I was like, well,
Paolo then ran away with it and it was like, oh, this is why he went number 1 and why actually when everybody was trying to talk about Jalen Smith going number 1, that was ridiculous and that Paolo was the best player by far.
Jalen Smith?
Jabari Smith.
I was like, wow.
I'm sorry. You have me recorded almost after 11 o'clock my time. I mean, I'm trying to keep the names in my head, but I'm not as sharp as I used to be when I used to do this every day. Jabari Smith. That was great.
Jalen Smith is not going to get any more reactions. He had a nice game. He did very well off the bench for the Pacers. Like so the tripling, the assist, like that's aggressive. I admit that I don't actually know if it'll get that high, but 5 today, and they weren't forced, and they weren't out of the flow of the offense, and they weren't like gimmicky in any way. It was stuff that he could do every game with the way he's able to handle his touches and make plays. And he only had, I think, 2 or 3 shots that I would say, he kind of forced that one. And I think he was feeling it both times, which is a very Mathurin shot. But I think he can realistically get that. If he keeps playing like this, which so far he's done very well at, I think he can get his assists up to 4-ish per game. And that's almost triple last year, which would be huge for his development.
Yeah, I mean, the thing happens to most rookies, which happened to him, right, is they hit that because you don't play more than 40 games in college. There's somewhere, usually for a lot of rookies, especially for most rookies, the exceptional players, they hit a wall after about 30, 40 games, which is exactly what happened to him. So we'll see if that, having a year of NBA experience sort of helped him with conditioning and stuff like that. And he can kind of get more of a longer tail into the season and play, let's say, 65 solid games.
I agree. Give me another one.
Bruce Brown will be the Pacers' best off-season signing since David West.
Nice.
I'm not sure that's actually that hard to beat, but that's what I wrote down.
Brogdon's good, right?
Well, are we counting Brogdon as a signing? I mean,
it's close. It's tricky.
It was a trade, technically speaking, but I will count it. So,
but he could be better than Brogdon. He actually could be better than Brogdon.
Yeah. So it would be Brogdon. It would be Bogdanovich was a good signing.
Yes.
Collison was low-key a fantastic signing in that summer. Tyreek Evans was not a good signing, but he was a big
we
name.
thought he was at the time.
Monty Ellis was a terrible signing, also another big name one. That
You're not counting re-signings. You're talking about guys coming from other team to the Pacers.
Yeah, guys from other teams to the right. Like Haliburton isn't counting, right? I guess that's a re-signing, right?
I meant like re-signing Sabonis would obviously be the one, but like that doesn't count.
No, yeah, it doesn't. I guess okay. Well, Sabonis, it was I don't know. He was played. What would be still 2-3
They
on a rookie deal?
re-signed him. That shouldn't count. I think that should.
Yeah, I don't think that should. That's about the list. So Brogdon, Bogdanovich, Collison, Monte Ellis. I think those are the top signings.
I'm trying to check now to make sure that we're not missing anyone stupid, but I think
and then David West 2011.
David West is obviously fantastic. I don't think we're missing anybody because they traded for TJ Warren. Jeremy Lamb was not in this class at all. McDermott was good, but not in this class at all. So yeah, I mean, I think, and the thing that Bruce Brown is not okay. He might not make 6 threes again all year, right? Like he's never made more than 4 in a game before today. So that's obviously great if he can shoot that well or shoot pretty well all season. But it wasn't just that he did that, right? Like moving around well, defending well, not making. He's going to be the guy. People get mad when I do this because I did it with O'Shea Brissett, but like guys who don't make mistakes, I always value really high. And Bruce Brown does not make many mistakes, right? Because he's kind of good at everything a little bit. And so even though he's not like filling up the stat sheet, if he shoots 8 for 11, he's like an awesome player because he doesn't mess up. And so if his shots are also going in, he's just going to have this amazing game. And he did today. That's very possible. He's not going to get to David West level, obviously, but that is definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, the David West signing basically took the team from mediocre playoff to championship contender. I mean, he was that critical. I mean, there was other guys around him, but he was that critical. I guess
the other all-star on their resume signing with the Pacers
was Thaddeus Young a signing or was he a trade?
No, they traded the Carousel LeVert pick for him. Funnily enough,
okay, because that was he kind of actually reminds me a lot about that move. I mean, he's not the same player, don't get me wrong, but in terms of like the guy who doesn't make the stupid mistakes, like Thaddeus Young was always that like perfect kind of glue guy who like you could just kind of like he wasn't going to be fantastic, although he had a great game stopping Giannis one time. But he was the glue guy where like you knew he would always sort of make the right pass. He could keep the offense flowing, keep the defense kind of like in the right spots and stuff like that. Like, he just had that really good kind of like almost like leadership energy.
Corey Joseph was a trade, I believe. Also, again, not in this.
Yeah, not up there. I mean, I think Bogdanovich actually you can make a case. I mean, he was really
2.
good. First of all, he was like unexpected. Like when they signed him, it's like, who is this guy again? No, right? He's the Brooklyn European guy, came over like when he was 27, and then he like had a pretty solid 3. He had a great playoff game. He had a really solid 3-year run. He actually was quite good on with Utah for that one playoff run too. He was pretty decent for them.
You know what people get psyched about after their favorite team wins on opening night? Hearing more about 2017 Bogdanovich.
He was like the Collison and Bogdanovich signings were so important in terms of just like getting rid of all the crap talent they had the year before to bring in 2 guys who actually knew how to play basketball at a high level was incredible. Like,
dude, they signed those guys with team options because they were like, oh, this team's going to suck. And they were awesome.
Well, they basically replaced Monte Ellis and Lance Stevens with those 2 guys.
With those 2 guys, yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is why Paul George left, because that's right. He was playing with 4 guys who literally weren't in the NBA the next season, basically. Like, it was insane.
My final overreaction, you have one more about coaching. I said this yesterday. My bold prediction for the season was Andrew Nembhard's going to be an X factor by the end of the season, or viewed as one, because he can play on and off the ball, and I think he's going to take a step forward. My overreaction is I might have undersold it. Like, he was so good in this game.
Oh, he was amazing.
He's not going to make that like one-legged kick fadeaway every time, every game, but that shot looks smoother. He can get to it every time. Like every time he gets the defender like half an inch off his hip, he just dribbles in the middle of the paint, and that shot's there. His passing looks great. He had those ones I love where it's like him and a bunch of big men around him, and he somehow can find a way to get to the big right by him for a bucket. Like he looked awesome, and he played with Bruce Brown as a ball handler right next to him, and he played as the lone ball handler with second unit. He looked fantastic, and I think that's going to be huge in keeping those bench units afloat in a way that wasn't always the case last year.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like right now they nailed the 2022 draft.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like getting. I mean, they haven't had 2 good draft picks in a single draft. I think they went and drafted Lance and Paul George in 2009 together. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to get one good draft pick. Were there any lineups? Have we seen? And I don't remember now because I'm sort of blanking. Was there a 3-guard lineup of Mathurin, Nembhard, and Haliburton at one point or no?
Matt, I think so.
Right, I thought there was for like a tiny.
I'll try to find it.
I would just the way Nembhard is playing. I'd be interested to see when they try to experiment with that kind of lineup because I mean, he does seem like one of their 5 best players, right? Like, so like now the question, does he really fit with Haliburton and Mathurin? Maybe not. Maybe that's, he's just better off. But at some point you got to think about like, how do you get, because he's got enough length and Haliburton's enough length. They should be, okay on defense, I guess. Maybe it's some teams I just be interesting to see.
So for a little bit, they had a group. It was so short that the numbers are stupid.
Okay.
It was Nembhard, Haliburton, Mathurin, Nesmith, Turner, which was, if you'll remember, they're starting 5 last year with Mathurin instead of Buddy Hield.
Yeah. Okay. Because like I'm interested right in a lineup like that, those 3 guards with, let's say, maybe Brown and Turner,
Obi or Bruce. Yeah.
One of those 2 and Turner. Just because it's like I said, if Nembhard is one of their best 5 players, at some point you got to try playing with. You just got to play your best 5 players and see what happens, to see if there's a lineup there, because we've seen in the NBA too, especially in the regular season success, these like 3-guard lineups can have some success if they can, especially they can move at an incredible pace and just like, like I said, I think I was talking about the Rondo, JJ Barea, Luka Doncic lineup from like 2017, 18, or 18, whenever Luka's first year was. Like that was an incredibly good offensive lineup for a split period. So it's worth experimenting with.
Obviously, at some point you need size, but if you can dribble and defend and shoot, like,
you're going to do a lot of regular season games because you can just run teams off. And for this team, just getting to the postseason is the success. That's the biggest thing from tonight. I think that's like, if you were overreacted, that this team, it's the expectations are no longer. The expectation is to at least be like in the play-in game, but it's to win the play-in game, get a 7-8 seed or be a top 6 seed. Like
they have said, they're playoffs.
Yes, but I think before the season it was like what was their over-under? 38.5 wins, right?
38. I've seen 37.5, 38.5.
Which that's probably not a team that makes the playoffs. I would say you probably usually a 500 team has to make or above has made the playoffs. So they're not like by any odds makers a playoff team, but I think after tonight's game it's like, they should be a playoff team.
If the West is as awesome as everyone says it could be, the last play-in team in the East could be a 39-win team. But I
feel like though every year it's like this conference is going to be great, and then it ends up falling flat on its face. I don't know. It seems but
that's what's required for a 30-win team to play beyond the regular
or just to be the conference to be so top heavy, right? Like can Milwaukee and Boston both win 60-something games, and that will probably do the same.
That could also
effects, right?
That is also possible. Like the year the Spurs were the 10th play-in team in the West 2 years ago, I think, and they won like 35. Like they didn't even want to be there.
Getting into the play-in, you can do it 30-something wins. I just mean getting in the playoffs. Usually, you have to be a 40-something win team. It's pretty hard to actually get into the playoffs with winning less than 40 games.
Do you have any more? Who have we not talked about before? Well, okay. Do you have any more? First of all, don't tell me what they are.
I had one more, but we kind of hit it. But I can say it.
Don't say it. Yeah, hang on. Okay, who have we not talked about? We haven't talked about Obi at all. Do you have any impressions of him?
He looked like a good signing so far.
He's made his threes. He actually defended pretty well.
Like I said, it didn't clog the lane. The starting lineup seemed to have 5 guys who could shoot the ball, which is really important. I know that's not always like his strong suit. So we'll see if I can like maintain. But the spacing, it's nice to see some spacing, right? That's like that was sort of the point of trading Sabonis for Haliburton, was like you sort of swap 2 really good players, but you sort of swap this old school style for new school style, and it's so far that's so. Then you finally got the other players around Haliburton to make that work.
Jalen Smith was awesome. I said that earlier, but if he plays even close to like that every game, he's
could he? He's never going to be as good as Turner, but could he inch his way into sort of becoming like? I think there's a real question of who the backup center is in the long term. Just the way Smith he played last year, right? I'm not sure. You're not sure he can handle it. I guess Isaiah Jackson is also a fouling machine at the same time, so I'm not sure that you get any benefit there. But could he get established as like the for sure backup center at some point? I don't know.
Jackson was all right in his minutes, but Smith was great.
But he played garbage times. He played slightly more than he played slightly more. You're right. He played slightly more, but they were already up, I think, by 15. So like he was playing like the third quarter, kind of already garbage time.
And Nesmith's defense was fantastic. Okay, your last overreaction. So now we think we've got at least a note on every player.
I think this is actually not an overreaction. It's probably going to happen, but I think they'll break their single game 3-point record. This season. Ooh. So the record's 23. They did it last year. Basically, all their top 3-point shooters in the last 2 or 3 seasons. It's. I think
they take so many now.
Yeah, well, remember it used to be they could never get over 20. That was like the big deal. So they had 23s tonight. They've done that like a lot the last 2 years. So that's not an issue. But 23 is the current team record. So
was that in Milwaukee? Do you have that up still?
I have it up on one of my tabs. I can remember which one. Let me see.
I think it was.
It doesn't have the. It does have the opponent. It was against. It was against Brooklyn last October 29th against Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah. I remember that game. I was at a wedding. I didn't actually watch 22. Duarte went nuts. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Duarte had 30 points.
That's right. They were 23 of 46, 50% from three.
Yeah, I think that you're definitely right. I mean, if they only air quotes, they only took 43 today. Like, that's a lot, but that's not like so much more than their average. Last year they averaged 37 a game. So one of these games they'll get up 50 and make 24, right?
Yeah, that's what they have to do. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but I think it's, they play. Where do they play Wizards 3 more times? Right? I mean, there's enough bad team. I mean, there's a couple of bad teams they could just score a ton on.
Especially because if you're taking this many in a game, and I've given the Pacers a lot of credit for this, even on nights they're not shooting well, which maybe is a detriment. That they get good looks from three, right? Like the ones they take, they have good enough shooters at every position. There's very rarely a three the Pacers take that I'm like, oh, that was a bad shot, right? Sometimes heat check threes that happens, which that's like
Haliburton. I guess we have to come up with him shooting the 25-foot three, which he's good enough at that it probably is worth taking, but it is still a little uncomfortable at times.
He is in a class of player where he could do it every once, and I'm like,
I know, but I mean. I sometimes feel like just the only guy ever should be able to do that is Steph Curry because he can hit it at a 37% clip.
Sure.
Everyone else is maybe not that great, but I get it. He's sort of earned the right he's made enough in there to earn the right to take them.
So I think they take good quality enough threes that in a game where they take 50, that means they're taking they feel like they can get it whenever they want it. So yeah, I definitely think that's possible that they could.
Yeah, and they also have the ability to score inside, when their three isn't falling, to get to the rim and try to score. They have enough. It seems like guys who can kind of especially mainly Mathurin, but kind of guys who have this good kind of mid-range or cutting game that when they struggle from three, they will open up their threes. And I think there is something to say where if you can start just making shots, it does sort of lead to more 3-point shots. So
yeah,
I think there's a good chance that they could definitely get 24 more threes in a game, especially against one of these really bad teams like Portland or Houston or Washington again or Charlotte probably is going to be the other really bad team in
Detroit.
Detroit. I always am hesitant to say Detroit's going to be bad because Cade, third-year Cade?
He almost got them beat over Miami today. Last night now. Wow.
Maybe I'm holding out hope, I guess. But I feel like he could be an all-star this year. And so that might carry Detroit a little further.
That is possible. That's a good point. I'm excited to watch these guys try to follow it up because Cleveland is essentially the opposite team as the Wizards. They're really good on defense and they force you into tough decisions on offense. So we'll learn a lot about the Pacers on Saturday, and we won't overreact to that game. We'll regular react to that game. And tomorrow we'll talk even more about this Wizards game and look ahead at the Cavs. So lots of fun coming here on Locked On Pacers. But Adam, it was a good first night for the Pacers, who are in first place in the standings.
Milwaukee hasn't played yet. Milwaukee and Philadelphia have not played, right?
Then they're definitely ahead of those teams.
Okay, right? Milwaukee, who's going to win?
Not better than 1-0.
Sure, but I just said Milwaukee, who's going to probably win the East. Be in first place in a week. Probably alone.
This is a sports question, right? When you say a team hasn't lost, you say they're 2-0, right? You say O at the end. But a team that hasn't played, saying they're 0-0 sounds dumb.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's in soccer, because they allow ties, right? They go, you're undefeated even if you're 5-2-0, right? If you tie the game.
That's true.
A team I've been cheering for recently, Tottenham, is technically, I think, 6-2-0. They're top of the table, but technically they haven't lost.
A Tottenham fan. How
can I be a Tottenham fan?
It feels like every American becomes a Tottenham fan somehow.
Well, I don't know. They're
perfect because you don't want to feel like a bandwagon fan picking Liverpool or the Manchesters or Arsenal, but Tottenham's still good.
I'll tell you off the mic why I'm a Tottenham fan, because it's a really kind of political-ish reason, and I don't really feel like dragging this podcast.
Understood. Well, everybody, we'll be back tomorrow talking more Pacers Game 1 thoughts heading in to Cleveland. I'll do a bonus show Saturday because I'll be in Cleveland in a hotel room as well. And then we're back next week, continuing to talk about this team. Hope you guys enjoyed our overreactions. Let me know if you have any on Twitter. I'm on there at Tony R. East. Don't bother Adam. He's talking about more important stuff on the internet these days. And this show is at Locked On Pacers, or comment below on YouTube if you're watching us there. Thank you all a ton for listening. We'll see you soon.